All right, so today we're doing a deep dive into the world of civil engineering technicians. Using RoleCatcher's career guide and platform, we are going to get you up to speed on this hands-on career path.
Yeah, it's a really interesting field that's always keeping up with the times.
I like that. Always evolving.
Yeah,
So RoleCatcher says that these technicians are the ones who help design and execute those construction plans. And, it's got to be pretty detail-oriented with all those organizational tasks and material calculation.
oh, absolutely. We're talking about roads and bridges, the stuff we use every single day.
Mhm.
Can you imagine being in charge of calculating the materials for a bridge, making sure there's enough steel? Talk about pressure.
Yeah, no kidding. A miscalculation there, and it could be disastrous. So it's not just about paperwork. It's about making sure that what's on the blueprint actually translates into a safe and sound structure in the real world.
Exactly. And it's not just about, one bridge. Think about traffic flowing through a city. A civil engineering technician has a hand in how that all works. Everything from roads and traffic lights to the water systems and even the sewage, that's all part of the job.
Wow, so you're saying that when I'm stuck in traffic, it could be because of a civil engineering technician?
Maybe, maybe not, but their job is to make sure all these systems we rely on are working.
That makes sense. So definitely not a desk job then. What's the work environment really like?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, it really depends. You be inside working on site plans, grading plans, and all those technical drawings one day, and then be outside the next day, hard hat on a construction site.
It's the best of both worlds. So what about the pros and cons?
Well, the guide mentions that it can be physically demanding and the hours can be long, which makes sense when you're on a construction site. But that also means that you're out there building something tangible, something that will last.
Yeah, it's not like you're pushing papers. You get to see the results.
That's it. And speaking of seeing results, the job outlook for civil engineering technicians is really positive. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects a 5% growth from 2019 to 2029.
Wow, that's great, especially compared to other occupations.
It is. And it makes sense when you think about how much construction is always going on and how much more complex it's becoming.
Yeah, it's not just bricks anymore, right? RoleCatcher mentions all these technology advances in the field.
It's true. This is a field that has really embraced technology. Computer-aided design or CAD software has completely changed how plans are created and shared. And then there's BIM, which is Building Information Modeling.
BIM. I'm not familiar with that one.
So imagine this. You have this virtual 3D model of the whole structure. And I mean everything from every pipe and wire to how everything fits together before anything's even been built.
Whoa, that's crazy.
It is. And this lets you see so much detail and work together in a way that just wasn't possible before.
It sounds like this is the perfect field for our learner personality type. Always something new to learn.
Right. And we haven't even gotten to drones on construction sites yet.
Wait, really? Drones? Okay, we definitely have to talk about that. But first, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more on how technology is changing the game for civil engineering technicians.
So about those drones, they're not just delivering pizzas out there.
Haha. Yeah, although I'm sure some workers wouldn't complain about that. But seriously, what are they doing on construction sites?
Well, you know how surveying a big construction site takes a lot of time. Drones can actually do that way faster, and the accuracy is amazing.
So they're like high-tech tape measures with wings.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
They take all these super high-resolution pictures, gather data, and then feed that into those cool programs we were talking about, like CAD and BIM.
That's so cool. So this field isn't just hands-on, it's high-tech too. What a combo. What about breaking into this field?
RoleCatcher has some good advice on that. If you're looking long-term, a degree in civil engineering, construction management, or building science would be a solid start.
Yeah, those make sense, but what if someone's more of a hands-on learner, Are there options for them?
Definitely. The guide talks about co-op programs where you go back and forth between the classroom and actual job experience.
So it's not just about passing those math tests, it's knowing how to actually use it all, right?
Exactly. And don't discount those entry-level jobs even if they seem basic. Starting as an assistant surveyor or a construction intern can really give you a feel for the work and you build those connections.
You got to start somewhere.
For sure. The guide even talks about getting involved in student groups or volunteering for construction projects to get ahead.
Shows you're serious, right? So let's say you've got the education, some experience under your belt, maybe some certifications. What's the typical career path look like?
Well, the guide lays out those stages nicely. You start entry level, assisting with site plans and those grading plans, maybe doing some material calculations, making sure nothing collapses.
Essential.
Yeah. Then as you get more experience, you move on to bigger projects, maybe even leading a team.
So there's definitely room to grow and take on more responsibility. The guide actually gives a sample profile of like an entry-level civil engineering technician, and they really emphasize things like highly motivated and detail-oriented. No surprise there.
Yeah.
They also mention having a relevant degree and certifications. Seems like it's that combo of formal learning and, always wanting to learn more. That's super important.
It really is. And that brings up a good point. Learning never stops in this field. You've got to stay updated on the latest technologies, all the new rules and regulations, and the best practices.
Can't just get comfy and call it a day.
Exactly. Going to workshops and seminars, or even going for a higher degree or more certifications, that all shows you're serious.
Totally. So we've talked about how to get started, building your skills, always learning. But let's be real, what are the absolute must-have skills to actually kill it as a civil engineering technician?
RoleCatcher breaks it down really well. At the top, no surprise here, is a strong understanding of engineering and technology at 72% importance.
Makes sense. You got to know how things are designed, how they're built, and how they all work together in the real world. But it's not just about the big picture, right?
You got it. Math is super important too, at 70% importance.
All those trig classes weren't for nothing.
Nope. Accurate calculations, that's key. But it's not all about being a math whiz. Design is just as important, also at 70%.
So you got to be able to take those calculations and actually create plans and blueprints. You need that creative side too.
Exactly. And then there's the actual building part. RoleCatcher gives that 68% importance.
Yeah, you need to know the materials, the methods, the tools of the trade. That's how those designs become reality.
For sure. And we can't forget the administrative stuff. Maybe not as exciting, but it's 61% important for a reason.
Right. It's all about those technical drawings, the permits, the safety rules, keeping everything organized.
You got it. And since everything's digital these days, knowing your computers and electronics is huge. RoleCatcher gives that 63% importance. So you know your way around AutoCAD, Revit, GIS, that's a huge plus.
Okay, so we've got the technical skills, the design skills, the administrative side, and the digital stuff too. That's a lot. But RoleCatcher does a great job of showing what's most important. And they keep reminding us that things are constantly changing in this field.
It's true. You got to be ready to adapt to all the new technology and ways of doing things.
Speaking of adapting, let's talk about something that makes a lot of people nervous. Job interviews.
Oh yeah, the interview. It's part of the process, and RoleCatcher has some good tips for acing those civil engineering technician interviews. Preparation is key.
So what kind of questions should someone be ready for?
Well, you'll definitely get some technical questions about civil engineering and surveying. They'll want to know about your experience with the equipment, your knowledge of the rules and regulations, that sort of thing.
Got to make sure you know your stuff.
Exactly. They'll probably also ask about how you work with others, how you solve problems, how you handle tough situations.
Right, because it's not enough to just know the technical stuff. You need to be a good team player, a critical thinker, and a good communicator.
Exactly. That's where those basic skills like listening, reading, and talking come in. They might seem simple, but they're crucial in any technical field.
Okay, so you're about to walk into that interview. What's the most important piece of advice you can give?
Be excited about civil engineering. Show them that you don't just want a job. You're passionate about this work and making a difference.
I love that. Enthusiasm goes a long way. It shows you're invested. We keep talking about technology, and it's clear it's changing the entire construction industry. What are some examples from the guide?
Well, we talked about CAD and BIM, but the guide really gets into how much BIM is changing the game.
So it's more than just those cool 3D models.
Yeah, it's about having this virtual version of the whole project. You can test everything out virtually, how strong it is, how energy efficient it is before you even start building.
That's incredible, like having a crystal ball for your project.
Right. It's all about collaborating, saving time and money, and avoiding mistakes.
That's wild. What about drones? We touched on those earlier. Any other ways they're being used in this field?
The guide mentions they're being used for inspections, like on bridges and other infrastructure. Much safer and faster than the old ways of doing it.
It's like having eyes in the sky.
Exactly. And then there's 3D printing. It's still pretty new, but it has huge potential.
3D printing entire buildings, is that even possible?
It's becoming a thing. It's not super common yet, but RoleCatcher talks about how companies are using these huge 3D printers to make parts of buildings and even whole houses.
Wow, that just blows my mind. So it's not just about drones and software, it's about being open to all these crazy new technologies.
Totally. And the guide really stresses that we're just scratching the surface. AI and machine learning are changing everything so fast. Who even knows what the future holds for civil engineering?
We've covered a lot. From the daily grind to the future of the field, it's obvious that a civil engineering technician needs to have the skills, the design thinking, and the ability to adapt, right?
Right. And they got to be great communicators, problem solvers, and most of all, passionate about making the world a better place. But before we finish up, I'm curious. The guide mentions specializations within civil engineering. What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. The guide touches on how specializing can help you really hone in on a specific area. They don't give a hard and fast list, but they say each path has unique opportunities for growth.
It makes sense. It makes sense to become an expert in something specific as the field keeps changing.
For sure. So let's brainstorm. What are some areas a new civil engineering technician might consider?
Well, the guide talks a lot about transportation,
Yeah.
so specializing in road design or bridge engineering seems like a natural fit.
Absolutely. Or even traffic management, right?
Yeah.
Our transportation systems are just getting more complex.
Good one. And with so much focus on sustainability these days, maybe green building practices or renewable energy systems would be a good fit.
Yeah, those are fields where you can really make a positive impact. And we can't forget about climate change, right? Specializing in coastal engineering or designing for crazy weather events will only become more important.
Wow, those are all great examples. It's amazing how many different paths you can take as a civil engineering technician. But I think no matter what you specialize in, one thing stays the same.
You want to build a better future.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And that makes me think about how helpful a platform like RoleCatcher can be for these aspiring technicians.
Right. We've barely scratched the surface of their platform. Remember how impressed we were with their career guidance?
Totally. It's not generic advice at all. It's made for this specific career.
And there's more. They have this amazing feature called the Jobs module.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about that. Imagine a tool that gathers job listings from all over the place and shows them to you in a way that makes sense.
Forget those endless job boards. This is way better. And it gets even cooler. They have this AI-powered CV and resume builder.
Oh, man, that's huge. Their AI looks at your skills and experience, then creates a resume and cover letter specifically for each job you want.
Like having a personal marketing team.
For real.
Yep.
And don't forget their interview prep module. That was super helpful.
Totally. Having access to thousands of possible interview questions and expert advice is invaluable.
Exactly. It's all about going into that interview feeling prepped and ready to show your passion.
Couldn't agree more. I think we've covered pretty much everything about becoming a civil engineering technician. We talked about the work itself, the awesome opportunities, the challenges, and even some potential career paths.
We also saw how RoleCatcher can help by giving you the knowledge, tools, and confidence to succeed.
Absolutely. So if you're someone who likes to roll up your sleeves, who loves to learn, and wants to make a real difference, this could be the perfect career for you.
I think so too. And who knows, you might just design the bridge we'll all be driving across someday.
That's a great thought. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to subscribe for more fascinating career explorations. It's amazing when you think about it. Like, we cross bridges, we drive on roads, we turn on the tap, and clean water comes out. And it's easy to forget there are people behind all of that making sure it all works.
It's so true. Civil engineering technicians, they're like the unsung heroes of our world.
Totally. And what's really cool is that it's not just about the technical stuff, right? It's about actually making a difference.
Absolutely. You get to see the impact of your work, knowing you're part of something bigger.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people are looking for that in their careers, that sense of purpose, knowing that what they do matters. You can definitely find that in this field. So, as we wrap up our deep dive here, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, first off, if you're someone who likes to work with their hands, but also loves technology, this career has got it all.
Yeah, it's about making those designs a reality using both, the classic tools and the latest and greatest tech.
Right. And don't forget about always learning new things. That's huge in this field. You got to be ready to adapt and keep learning throughout your career.
So true. Whether it's going to conferences or taking courses online or even just playing around with the newest software, a civil engineering technician They never stop learning.
Yeah.
And for those just starting out, there are so many paths you can take, right? Like you could focus on transportation, green building, even coastal engineering.
Exactly. And with resources like RoleCatcher's career guide and platform, you've got the support to figure it all out, whether it's finding job openings or getting ready for that big interview.
For sure. They've got you covered. So to wrap things up, if you're out there and you're excited about the idea of actually shaping the world, of taking those ideas and making them real, making a real difference, look into becoming a civil engineering technician. It's tough, it's rewarding, and it's a field that's always changing.
Well said. And
Yeah,
hey, maybe someday you'll be the one designing that bridge we're all driving across.
I love it. That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into amazing careers.